Imagine for a moment that you possess a mind so vast, so powerful, that it knows the exact position and velocity of every single atom in the universe. From the swirling galaxies millions of light years away to the microscopic neurons firing in your brain right now. In classical physics, if you know the force, the angle, and the speed of a strike, the outcome isn't a surprise. It's a mathematical certainty. Now, expand that logic to everything. Every breath you take, every star that dies, every thought you've ever had. If the universe follows strict laws of cause and effect, then is the future already written? In 1814, the French scholar Pierre-Simon Laplace proposed a haunting concept that would challenge the very idea of human bridge and free will. He imagined an intellect that could see through the veil of time, a bridge between the past and the infinite future. This entity became known as Laplace's demon. Today, we're diving into the heart of determinism. We'll explore how 19th century physics built this demon and how the strange world of quantum mechanics tried to kill it. Are you a passenger in a pre-written script or the architect of your own fate? Let's find out. To understand why Laplace even imagined such a demon, we have to look at the world through the eyes of the Enlightenment. This was the era of Sir Isaac Newton. Before Newton, the world was often seen as chaotic or driven by the whims of gods. But Newton changed everything with a single realization: the universe has rules. Newton's laws of motion were like the source code of reality. They suggested that if you knew the starting conditions of an object, its position and its momentum, you could use math to predict exactly where it would be at any point in the future. It wasn't a guess, it was a calculation. This birthed a philosophy called scientific determinism. Think of it as the clockwork universe theory. In this view, the universe is just a massive, incredibly complex machine. Like a clock, once it's wound up and starts ticking, every gear must turn in a specific way. There is no maybe. There is only what must happen. If the fall of an apple and the orbit of the moon follow the same unbreakable laws, then why not the atoms in your body? Why not the clouds in the sky? To Laplace, the only reason we can't predict the future is simply because we aren't smart enough. We lack the data. But his demon, the demon doesn't have that limitation. For this intellect, nothing would be uncertain. The future, just like the past, would be present before its eyes. It would see the Big Bang and the Big Crunch as two ends of a single unchangeable string. But as perfect as this machine sounded, the 20th century was about to throw a massive wrench into the gears. So, what exactly is this demon? Laplace didn't see it as a supernatural monster or a deity. He described it as an intellect, a vast organic supercomputer. To this entity, there is no such thing as luck, coincidence, or chaos. Everything is just data waiting to be processed. For the demon, the past and the future are identical in their certainty. If you show the demon a grain of sand today, it can trace its path back to the birth of the earth, or forward to the moment the sun expires. In this terrifyingly mechanical view, time isn't a river flowing into the unknown. It's a frozen block of ice where every moment exists simultaneously. Think about what this means for us. We feel like we make choices. You chose to click on this video. You might choose to have coffee or tea later. But to Laplace's demon, those weren't choices at all. They were the inevitable results of the chemical reactions in your brain, which were triggered by the environment around you, which was set in motion billions of years ago. In the demon's world, chance is just a word humans invented to describe our own ignorance. We say a coin flip is 50-50 because we can't see the exact force of the thumb, the air resistance, and the gravity. But the demon sees it all. To the demon, the coin was always going to land on heads. There was never any other possibility. For over a century, this dark vision of a predetermined universe haunted philosophy. If the math was right, then freedom was an illusion. But just as the demons seemed to have won, science stumbled upon a realm where the laws of Newton no longer applied. a realm where the demon finally met its match, the quantum world. For decades, the demon reigned supreme. But in the early 20th century, physicists peered inside the atom, and what they found wasn't a tiny clock. It was a chaotic, flickering landscape that defied every rule Newton ever wrote. This was the birth of quantum mechanics. Enter Werner Heisenberg. In 1927, he introduced the uncertainty principle. This wasn't just a limit of our technology, it was a fundamental law of nature. He proved that you cannot know both the exact position and the exact momentum of a particle at the same time. The more you know about one, the blurrier the other becomes. Remember, Laplace's demon relies on having perfect data to make its predictions. But Heisenberg showed that perfect data is physically impossible to obtain. Nature itself refuses to be pinned down. At the subatomic level, the universe doesn't deal in certainties. It deals in probabilities. In the quantum world, an electron isn't here or there. It exists in a haze of possibilities called superposition. It only decides where to be when we measure it. This drove Albert Einstein crazy. He famously said, "God does not play dice with the universe." But as far as we can tell, the universe loves to gamble. If the smallest building blocks of reality are inherently unpredictable, then the master chain of cause and effect is broken. If the present is uncertain, the future cannot be calculated. The demon, it seemed, had finally met a wall it couldn't see through. But what if the problem isn't just the small stuff? What if even simple systems are too much for any mind to handle? Even if we set aside the weirdness of quantum mechanics, even if we assume the universe is secretly deterministic, there is another monster waiting in the shadows to defeat the demon. It's called chaos theory. In the 1960s, a meteorologist named Edward Lorenz discovered something haunting. He found that in certain systems, the tiniest change in the beginning leads to a massive, unrecognizable difference in the end. This is the butterfly effect. If the demon's data is off by even a trillionth of a percent, if it misses the displacement of a single molecule of air, its entire map of the future becomes worthless. To predict the weather 100 years from now, or the exact path of a falling leaf, the demon doesn't just need a lot of information, it needs infinite information. It would need to know the state of the entire universe to calculate even the smallest part of it. This creates a paradox. To simulate the universe perfectly, the demon would have to be as large and complex as the universe itself. In other words, the map would have to be the size of the territory. At that point, the demon isn't an observer anymore. It's just the universe looking at itself. It ceases to be a tool for prediction and becomes a prisoner of the very complexity it tries to solve. So the demon is trapped between the randomness of the tiny atom and the overwhelming chaos of the massive world. It seems science has effectively fired Laplace's ghost. But this leaves us with a final, much more personal question. If the future isn't calculated, is it free? So where does this leave us? If Laplace's demon is dead, slain by the uncertainty of the atom and the chaos of the clouds, does that mean we are truly free? Not necessarily. Even without a demon to calculate it, the debate between fate and freedom continues to haunt every choice we make. Some believe that randomness isn't the same thing as freedom. Just because the universe is unpredictable doesn't mean we are the ones in control. But there is a more beautiful way to look at it. If the future is not a pre-written script, then every moment is a genuine act of creation. The uncertainty of the universe isn't a flaw, it's the space where we exist. We spent centuries looking for a demon that could tell us our ending. We wanted to know if the story was already finished. But perhaps the most profound truth is that the universe is not a machine, and you are not just a gear within it. You are the ghost in the machine. You are the uncertainty that keeps the story moving. Laplace's demon would know exactly what you're going to do next, but the demon doesn't exist, which means, for better or worse, the next page is blank. And the pen? The pen is in your hand. Thank you for spending these few moments of your unwritten future with me. If this journey into the mind of the demons sparked something in you, you know what to do, not because you were programmed to, but because you chose to. Stay curious. I'll see you in the next one. Probably.